But if you don't make progress in that first term, I'm through with you because I'm tired of being told the same thing constantly.
But doesn't that mean that we'll never see any change? Because
No, it doesn't.
if you give, let's say Joe Biden, since he's the one running, you give Joe Biden one term. Number one, you have to have a platform that everyone agrees what that demand should be. I think we're too fractured to get people to agree that here's a list of demands that we're all going to agree on. So if we can't agree on what those demands are, and then we somehow present what we think those demands are to this, what we're going to consider this potentially this one-term president, if he doesn't meet our demand, that
Okay.
just means that he'll do what he wants to do, and then he'll go away because we won't vote for him again. And then the next guy, or in this case, let's say it's Kamala Harris, she'll do what she wants to do, and then she'll go away because she didn't meet our demands. And then we'll be 20 years from now with nothing done, nothing changed.
I see it
So
differently.
go
I
ahead.
see it differently because right now, what plans do we have on the table? None. Somebody
There's
better
a
put the
platinum plan
plan
on
on
the
the
table.
table. The platinum plan, Donald Trump's plan.
He got Ice Cube to buy in.
Yeah, okay. But if somebody
Straight out
puts
of
the
Compton.
plan on the table, somebody puts the plan on the table and we start working towards that, that's progress. That's something. Right now, we don't have a thing to look forward to or to push us towards that goal of having them serve our needs as well. So you put a
But
plan out there, Joe Biden. Huh? Go
you
ahead.
know, with Martin Luther King, when he was speaking with Johnson, I believe it was, and he was asking or demanding what should be done based on the following that he had. And Johnson said, "Yeah, we'll discuss it, and we're going to take it serious, and we're going to do this." And he didn't follow through on a majority of the stuff that the demands were. And now we're 2020 without a Martin Luther King. So how do we? Shouldn't the thing be try and find leaders, even if those leaders are in smaller groups? It doesn't have to be one person, Martin Luther King or Jesse Jackson or Malcolm X, speaking for the masses. But shouldn't there be smaller groups of people trying to come together so that we can all make sure we formulate what those demands should be?
Oh, I'd agree. I would definitely agree with that. And it's the same as part of this demand for Biden and Harris. Who they end up putting in the cabinet, and the other Democrats I voted for in here in Texas. Who's in the Senate? Who's in Congress? Who's in your city council? Who's on your school board? I mean, actually, I don't have any kids, but I know I'm paying taxes for the school board, so it's like, hey, what's going on with this school, with this school over there? Are these minority kids being taken care of over in what's in the books? I remember a couple of years ago, there was a big thing here in Texas about books that they were trying to ban or not not even publish or not get to. And it's like, oh, you got to be joking me.
Mm.
We got to speak on that. So no, I would totally agree with you. Yeah, there has to be other leaders because, well, then when they take one leader out, and there ain't nobody to back them up. That's the thing. They taking the head of the snake off and stuff, and that's part of it that needs to stop. It needs to be a group of people moving forward on a platform.
So to go back what you said, Abubak, on something earlier, from an economic perspective, what should the economy look like from a Black perspective? Like you said, we spend a lot of money on garbage, hair, nail. I think that read somewhere it was so many billions, 500-600 billion dollars on makeup. It was makeup, hair, nails. It was a bunch of stuff. I know Chris Rock did that movie several years ago.
Yeah.
How do we educate people on the importance of being economically strong as opposed to just being so fractured and everybody spend their money wherever they want to spend it?
Okay, Renee.
Well, when it comes to the school thing, we go to school and we learn math. And don't get me wrong, I like math. I wish I knew it better. I still read up on it, but there's a lot of finance and like home economics class. I don't even know if they still have that,
No.
you know, in school anymore. You got you know, recently, you know, we've been talking about cryptocurrency. You know, do these kids know cryptocurrency? Hell, I don't know cryptocurrency. These are the things that people need to be aware of about what's going on with this economy. They need to be aware that, you know, 25, 30 years ago, a CEO of a company, you know, might have been making 8 times more than the average worker at that company. And now it's like 400 times more, you know, that doesn't really work. And this zero-sum game thing, you know, understand what they're meaning by that, because the pie is not, it's just not one size. It's been getting larger, and we just been getting a smaller piece of it. So, you know, understand what that's about. No, totally agree with you, man. The capitalism, it works, right? But yes, and I'm not talking about no communism thing or nothing like that. I'm just talking about just understanding capitalism. And basically, what I want to say Trump is talking about is actually really fascism. And needing to understand that, and that this is, you know, that this is not working for people who don't invest in what's going on in the United States. The United States was built on the back of slavery. If anybody should have any investment in the stock market, it should be Black people, and we're never taught it, and we need to understand that.
We were the stock market. You know, just piggyback on what you said about on the psychology of this thing, and what Renee was talking about, cosmetics. You guys Google Dr. Amos Wilson. He does a good talk on the psychology of Black folks. The reason we spend so much money on cosmetics, especially our females, is because we've been taught that we aren't beautiful people. We trying to be somebody based on what somebody else said about us. The reason we dress the way we do, look the way we do, we worried about somebody else rather than ourselves. That's the psychological damage. That's why we don't have any money. Is mentally we going down the wrong road. See, when you understand like you said, the what I call post-traumatic slave syndrome, and you mentioned that before, that is so crucial. And people don't even understand that. The average Black person, if you bring that stuff up, they tell you, they look at you, then you don't know what you're talking about. They so ingrained to the lies and the belief system that white supremacy has put on Black people, on not just in this country, on a global scale. You got Black folks in Africa buying bleaching cream. What the hell is you doing buying bleaching cream in Nigeria? See, because you don't like who you are. You so ingrained to what the colonists, the enslavers have told you who you are, and you have bought the idea that Black is ugly, that you need to look more like them rather than who you are. And that's the biggest problem we have as a people. Until we psychologically understand those things, we believe everything they've told us, from religion, everything that they have given us. They don't even believe in it. If they believed in it, they wouldn't do the things they do. So apparently that's not a viable entity to follow. And everything Black folks in this country, I got a buddy of mine from Nigeria, and he says that Nigerians are worse off than Americans as far as following the colonial aspects of the religious systems, both Islam and Christianity in that country. And what Richard said talking about famine, there was no famine on the continent of Africa until Europeans came and started controlling the dadgum farmland and the grazing land. Them folks wasn't hungry, going starving, until Europeans showed up and divided the continent up the way they felt it should be divided up, and put this tribe part of this tribe in this so-called country by unnatural borders. How do you get Italy, Spain, France, Germany? Those were natural borders based on the way those people, the language, the cultures. That's what Africa had formed until the council was the year when they divided up when the Dutch, the French, the English, when they came in and said, well, you take this, we're gonna carve this section out and make this Nigeria, we're gonna make this that. Those weren't natural borders. That's why you have all these conflicts and then they use what I say, their favorite playbook is divide and conquer. That's white supremacy's #1 playbook, is divide and conquer. So you have Black folks on the island. Man, I'm not Black. I'm Trinidadian. I'm Jamaican. Man, I'm not. Man, I'm not. I'm from this. I'm from that. No, all y'all are African. But you let these folks tell you something different, so you never get together. That's part of that white supremacy divide and conquer scheme. Until you really dissect this thing and really understand it, then that's when you get to the economics of it, because it's all based on economics. If you keep people scrambling around looking for crumbs, then you run off with the whole pot of gold.
So can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
So wouldn't that mean kind of in the sense, whereas that the black race, or the in other words, we need to possibly re-educate. Shouldn't we re-educate starting at a very young age
Absolutely.
our children, our young people, because we can't rely on people my age or older, because they may have been damaged because of what has been instilled into our minds of who we are, and that we are only going to go so far, that we only can go to this side of town, or that don't belong here. And that goes all the way back to those that wrote the laws for this land. We weren't sitting at the table. So it wasn't enough of us. If any of us were sitting at the table to sit there and give our contribution to what the laws should be, when it includes us being considerate of us, it was all white men, basically. So we weren't part of the plan for sitting down, creating laws that are actually for all the people. So in order to, I don't believe in really segregation, but I almost believe that we got to go, and it's been tried several times and got destroyed. But where you go to our own little space, our own little section, and try to develop our own selves, build our own people up, our own wealth, not reaching out for, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, we basically have to start with our young people, teaching them and not relying on their parents or their grandparents, but basically teaching them at a very young age about securing Black wealth, about that you're beautiful, that you have worth, you have a place, you have something to contribute. So we can't rely on past generations to really instill this in our kids, because they're tainted almost.
Can I say something to that real quick, Jasmine? I want you to answer this. What do you think can be done, based on what Stephanie just said, to educate the youth? Or do you believe that it has to start with the youth? Still there, Jasmine? Oh, go ahead.
Yes, I think so. The issue with the youth is that everything has to be quick. So I think that the importance of the older generation teaching their children, who are the youth, and having these conversations at dinner time and normalizing it, I think that's the start of it. That will make people, because the youth, they have to understand how it's going to directly affect them. And right now, kind of where they are, they don't feel, or wherever stage they are, I'm not saying all youth, but a lot of times they don't associate anything with themselves or give interest if it doesn't directly impact them. So I think probably from the older generation to explain that all of the ways in which this doesn't affect you now, but there are second and third order and fourth order effects that will directly correlate to you. So I think the biggest thing is showing them that it is directly impacted, will directly impact them, and that it's important to them. But just how they will get that information is a difficult, I think a difficult task.
That was my next question. And I'm a firm believer that we have to educate kids, because it's going to sink in faster. And if they gravitate to it, then the long-term effect is much greater than if we're educating people that are our age. But I do believe that the kids, as what Jasmine just said, you can spend a lot of time trying to talk to them, but if you can't reach them, then you're going to waste time. Whereas if you spend time trying to get people like us on these calls, then basically people our age, they're going to take it and try and run with it. The youth, they're going to take it and start tweeting about it. And yes, it may have some, and everybody's going to have some nice sayings, and they're going to post a picture of what they saw and different things. But I don't know that this particular generation of youth is actually going to do anything with it. So that being said, if they aren't going to do anything with it, then how do we educate people that are older? And what should the step be? Should we start with Zoom meetings? Should it be, obviously we have the pandemic going on, so nobody's around, but Avon was really successful with getting small groups of people basically in a living room and talking about its product. Should it be something like that? Or should we think that we're going to get somebody like Eric, who's what, 45, 48, 49, 50, somewhere around there. We're going to get somebody like Eric to basically buy into what needs to happen, what should be happening, and then try and get him to sign on to a Zoom meeting and take time out of his day to start affecting change. What, Richard, from your perspective, should that focus be on the younger generation, or should it be on the people that are actually going to put their feet to the pavement and actually start doing something, as opposed to the people that are going to put their thumbs to the keyboard and start talking, tweeting about it?
I want to say something on the back of what you were just saying.
Go ahead, Jasmine.
I want to say, I think that when I say that people need to understand how relative it is to them, I will say that me personally, I'm 33 years old and I've been in the military for 10 years. And I think that growing up in a military environment and in a very diverse population, I think that, not that I didn't believe that it was this bad, the racism. I think probably, to be honest, I probably just wasn't educated enough and to really understand the slide comments or the undertone. And so it's interesting that probably over the last year and a half and some change, that now I feel like that I'm more aware. I'm realizing that probably, and it could be because now I'm coming into a different rank where it is exposing me to a different management level, where typically that population of people is not African American. There's not a lot of African American women officers. And so I think that it is way more blatant. I think the biggest thing is education. And I think that people have to see it. And I think it definitely has made a significant difference. And I didn't understand the gravity. I think that if you're born in a later generation, you have a little bit closer of a tie to it. And you can, you're either your mother or somebody like that. And me and my dad had a conversation about it. And I was like, we didn't grow up like this. And he said, well, yeah, it's just where we were and all of that stuff. So it kind of just, I think that is definitely important. But I definitely see it now, and I feel it. And I think that people are a lot more vocal and they feel a lot more comfortable speaking in a manner that they've never spoken before.
Richard, did you want to answer the original question? You think it's important to go after the youth and try and educate the youth to affect change? Or do you think we should be going after the older generation?
The obvious answer is that you need to do both. But where should the focus be, if there needs to be a focus? I think that short term, you need to focus on people that are going to be the most effectual. And I think that's the people that are already involved in voting. And I think that needs to be the first thrust, to try to get that to be as robust as possible. As far as the youth go, there are so many things that are trying to grab their attention. I think that there is a big problem with what the youth think is the good stuff. I think that there's a problem with a feeling of being connected and a feeling of community and like that. So for me, I guess I'd answer the question with the question also, which is, what is it that you're trying to communicate to them? Are you trying to just, get a group of young people together and tell them it's really important to vote? Well, that's not going to get anything. They're not going to, they're going to laugh. But if you are doing things in the community that are building the community and giving them a sense of purpose and giving them a sense of place, and they can feel like they belong to something, then I think that you get more participation from them. So I think that it's how they're approached and what the actual questions are that are being asked, and what's the how are you going to go about it? So I think that there are a lot of youth that are already involved, and it seems that from what I'm reading, that like my son's generation, they're more, and he's like around 30 now, so they're a little less inclined to be involved. But the people, what I'm reading is that the kids that are 15 through 22, 24, something like that, they're actually really concerned because they're looking at, the future,
Exactly.
and they actually are becoming more involved. So
Yes.
the question is, how do we identify what is of concern to people? Because you can't convince somebody to be concerned about something that they don't feel affects them. So how do you get there from here? And I also have to think, like, one of the reasons that Black Lives Matter and this whole thing took off is because, one of the reasons is because, a very brave football player put his knee on the ground. So, and then people looked up to that. And then that guy didn't just do that as a matter of ego. He's one of the most visible and one of the greatest leaders in his community. So that's just an amazing thing, and that's what needs to be done. And so what's hard for me, and I think it's cross cultural, but I think that the idea that the culture is based on basically greed and consumerism. That sounds like, well, all right, Richard, you're kind of getting off task, but no, that actually is the problem, because there is a lack of sense of belonging. And so there are people in various communities that end up, doing very well, leaving whatever community they're from. And then the example to the people that are left behind is, wow, when you make it, you leave and you buy yourself 14 of the most expensive cars you've ever seen in your life, and you buy yourself a 17,000 square foot mansion. So the question is, and again, this isn't, what's that?
I said, don't forget the white woman. You got
Right.
to do all
Yeah,
that.
you got right. You're so right. You got to get yourself all the trophies, and then when you have all the trophies, then you're the big winner, and that is what the youth is after. So I just hired a young Hispanic guy, Andy. He's a pretty smart kid. He's pretty smart, but he has many of the same trappings. He shows up with a new freaking cap every day. He's got the brand new shiny baseball cap. He's got nice clothes on, nice shoes on. He's living in an apartment with 5 people. And I tell him, Andy, like, if you just, I'm starting to work with him, like, if you just don't buy a hat every week, put that into the bank and like that. But what he sees is that. And, he wanted to have a good time. It was his birthday. So he wanted to have a good time. So he and his friends were looking at trying to find a really nice Airbnb to buy, not to buy, but to, rent for the night. And they're looking at like a mansion in Bel Air with a view of the ocean. They were going to rent it for 2 days for $6,000. But then they could have all their buddies over, right? They have everybody there. They're living large, at least. And this is the thing. This is really the thing. They want to live large because that's what they're being taught. That's what they're being taught.
But it's not as, it is a teaching, because if I watch something over and over, and Ed has said this many
Absolutely
TV programming for a reason, but it is a teaching, but it's more back to your point of feeling like they belong. Because the more I do this and I blow my money, the more followers I get, the more likes I get. Now I belong to something much bigger, because people think that the youth won't get involved, but the involvement that they need to actually get in, or the issues that they need to get involved in, are as simple as if they were to all get in as part of a flash mob. It's almost the same thing. They're going to spend a little bit of time. They're going to basically go march, go do something, go vote, go whatever it is. It doesn't actually require a lot of their time. But how do we communicate what that involvement should be? That's where I think we struggle is